scores and find out more about it, there's actually an online version, which is actually the Kersey, KEIRSEY.com, and you can go and take a smaller version of this and get an idea of how you score. And while some things can change over time, usually your score is pretty static. It doesn't change. Okay. So again, the key is introverts get energy from going within. Extroverts get energy from others. And both personalities, though, get too much of both. Introverts aren't always shy, as we pointed out here, and extroverts aren't always outgoing. Okay, that's a big surprise, but we are not always outgoing. Some people are actually prefer to have time on their own, or they may not reach out first to people, but they still get their energy from other people, which is considered extroversion. People high in extroversion tend to seek out social stimulation and opportunities to engage with others because that's where we get our energy. If you put me alone for more than a day, my energy goes down. My daughter, however, is pretty introverted, not shy. She's actually a social introvert. She can remain in her house and be alone for 3 and 4 days and be okay. Okay? And I think with COVID, we're all having that tested right now. Like, how long can I stay in? And poor Texas and Oklahoma, that area, boy, they've been hit hard, you guys. I hope you're staying safe. It's been really a test, but of, how long can I stay inside? How long can I not have heat and water? So back to the extroversion. These individuals are often described as being full of life, energy, and positivity. Well, in group situations, extroverts excel. We like to talk often. We assert ourselves. With good boundaries, we hold ourselves back so that others can have a turn, but not always the case. We usually don't meet a stranger, especially in extreme extroversion. Every person is an opportunity to learn about someone, a potential friend. I mean, I can relate to this. I just enjoy being around most people. I like learning more about them. Probably why I do what I do, being a therapist. Extroverts are really good at pulling out the best from people, even if the people didn't know that they had that going for them. An extrovert's probably going to find it and point it out. We are good with conversation, energy, confidence, more likely to have lots of interesting adventures, fun activities. Socializing and is all over our calendar, which gives us lots to talk about and hopefully listen about. Very rarely will there be a loss of words. Now, as I've gotten older, which is also something to keep in mind, everybody, is that no matter what you score as, you're going to move more toward your opposite the older you get. If you were extreme introvert as a child and adolescent, as you get older, you're going to become a little bit more extroverted. Extroverts, we do the opposite. As I've gotten older, I have become a little bit more introverted, reflective, needing my alone time to figure things out, etc. And my energy gets depleted with people a little bit quicker than it used to. Okay. Are extroverts always outgoing? Like we said, not necessarily. Shyness is typically thought to signify introversion. It's actually to be an extrovert and be shy. Someone who draws energy and enjoys being around other people but gets nervous around strangers or finds it difficult to speak up in a group setting, particularly a huge group setting. So that is my basics on introversion, extroversion. I hope it gives you pause for thought and has you questioning whether you're one or the other or where you are on the spectrum. And again, the website that you can go to do your own assessment, you put your email in, they'll send you your results. It's pretty interesting. It's Kersey.com. That's KEIRSEY.com. And I'd love to hear from you and tell me what your results are, and maybe I can add some information to it. Okay? Next up, let's talk about imposter syndrome. So right now I am working on writing about my pathway to where I am now, where I started, and writing, I guess you could say I'm writing my memoirs and thinking about writing a book, and thought I might share some of that information on here. Not quite ready to do that yet, but something that I was overpoweringly aware of is since basically birth, I've always felt a level of this imposter syndrome. Now, having said that, we all feel a level of it sometime in our lives. I mean, as you'll hear me say in a bit, even Dr. Maya Angelou struggled with it. After bestsellers, all her success and everything, she still struggled with this overwhelming feeling that she really didn't belong where she was. I think quite a few others identify with this too, no matter how accomplished you are, because it's not really about your accomplishments. But we'll get into that. So, many high achievers share a dirty little secret. Deep down, they feel like complete frauds. They feel like their accomplishments are luck. This psychological phenomenon is known as imposter syndrome and reflects the belief that any moment the powers that be are going to walk in and realize that you don't know what you're doing, or I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm inadequate and a complete failure. Okay, this, you would not believe it. I'll be sitting in session and I'll see a client and they can actually have attained quite a bit, high in their company, high in their rank, and they still struggle with feeling like they don't belong in the room with their colleagues. So we're going to talk about the types of imposter syndrome, okay? We've got the superwoman or superman, the perfectionist, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert. See if you identify with any of these, okay? And please take note that because of this syndrome, this way of thinking it can actually hold you back from your potential for success, or once you've achieved it. It's that voice in the back of your head that says, I don't belong here. And it's a miserable way to exist. Like, that's almost like doesn't make the success or the good feelings worth it. So, okay. 1, the perfectionist. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome kind of go hand in hand. Think about it. Perfectionists set excessively high goals for themselves, and then when they fail to reach a goal, which inevitably they're going to because, they're human, and their goals tend to be so high that eventually they're going to fall short. Then they go into the major self-doubt and worry about measuring up. And whether they realize it or not, this group can also be control freaks because they live in fear of that inevitable, which is that eventually they are going to fall short. That's the bad thing about the incredibly high, intense goals. I must work out 7 days a week, 3 hours a day. Well, that's really difficult to keep up with if you have any kind of life at all. And even if you don't, there's the nutrition you have to sustain it. I mean, it's really, really difficult. And the ones that have that as a goal, they tend to be pretty unforgiving of themselves when they don't measure up to that intense goal, and always having to attain. Just an example, these goals can take so many forms. I must get my doctorate. Well, that's a beautiful thing, but I must get my doctorate within, or getting all of my college done all the way through doctorate within 4 years. Very difficult. Insanity plan. So, success is rarely satisfying for the one who's the perfectionist because that person typically believes they could have done it even better. They didn't do it right, or they could have made that A could have been an A plus. For this type of person, if you identify, owning and celebrating your achievements is essential if you want to avoid burnout and find any kind of confidence and contentment in your life. Try to make mistakes. Try to take your mistakes in stride. Now, this is very hard to learn until you've lived long enough and made enough mistakes. And if you had parents that criticized you for any kind of mistakes and they were perfectionistic, it's really difficult. But this is something that will eventually make your life so much easier, so much more comfortable. If you see mistakes as a natural part of learning, you would be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't, how many clients I talk to who cannot get this basic thing down. They live in fear of their mistakes. That is not how it's intended. We are human. We are going to make mistakes. And the ability to sit back and go, okay, what's the worst case scenario here? If I did make that mistake, any mistake can be corrected. Although I have to tell you, when I lost my passport, that was pretty scary. That was a big mistake. Didn't turn out to be as bad as I thought it would be to try to get it back, but it was very scary. That's the only one that I feel like is really, because even if you lose your birth certificate, you can get another copy of that for the most part. But, okay. This is my suggestion for the perfectionist, and I've definitely applied this in my life. Push yourself to act before you're ready. Don't wait till you're comfortable. Jump. Trust, and if you don't trust, take the risk that you've got what it takes to make it. Jump. And every big thing in my life, I have felt a huge level of fear because it means a lot. The more it means, the more anxiety you have. But don't wait till you're not fearful, because you're going to continue to be fearful if it means anything to you. Just jump. I didn't wait until I knew I had enough money to start the counseling agency. I was put in a position where it was either go find another job or start a place. And I said to myself, I would rather start it and realize it was a bad idea, which there really are no bad ideas. It is just ideas that didn't work out, or it wasn't time, or what have you. I would rather do it and it not work out than never to have done it at all. And 15 years later, the grace of God and the grace of good people in my corner, it is still going and doing beautifully. Whenever I got the opportunity to come overseas, you think I might have been a little bit scared? You better believe it. But I didn't wait till I was comfortable. I did it. And in a lot of cases, a lot of the countries that I got to move to and work in, it didn't get comfortable for a long, long time. But I was able to rely upon my resourcefulness, my ability to meet people, and at least find someone who could help me, guide me through the process. And there was a lot of processes to go through. I'll do a whole show probably on that. What else? Oh, whenever I just knew and felt that I was supposed to go to college, I didn't wait until I had all the answers. Unfortunately, the answers also included the finances to pay for it. But I just knew I was supposed to be there. So I just showed up for orientation and said, you know what? I'm going to figure it out as I go. 7 years later, I got my master's degree. And answers appeared because I took the first step. Energetically, you're not going to have some of the answers before you start something. The answers are going to appear later. So I go back to this, and it's not so easy. Never have I felt comfortable when I've jumped. But I'm telling you, jump and trust the net will be there. Force yourself to start that project you've been planning for months.